right, gang, we're sitting down now on this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast with my pal, Lisa Jenner. Just kidding. Lisa Jenner, the Chief Revenue Officer at Dealer Alchemist. Thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook
You're not
Podcast.
really going to put that out there, right?
Oh, yeah, I totally am. Are you kidding me?
Amazing.
How are you? When did you get into town?
Got in yesterday.
Yeah, and you're from Texas, so this isn't a culture shock
No,
to you.
I'm so excited to be in our home state.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And you brought a cowboy hat?
I did not, but I brought some big cowboy boots. And here's why. Because I've got all the flair happening. We're going to the Brad Paisley concert tonight. And I've got the fur vest, with the big cowgirl boots. And so the hat was like over the top. I mean, if I added the hat, I would have to add a buckle and then, it's a whole other level.
I feel like such a poser. And I know I should just accept that I live here and I can I call myself a Texan? I don't know.
There's a few qualifying questions. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you say y'all?
I do say y'all, and it happens so naturally, I've found.
Okay, and do you say fixin' to? Like, I'm fixing to go to the grocery store? All right.
Not yet.
Once you reach that, feel free to wear the cowboy hat anytime you want to.
That's awesome. I see you guys are exhibiting here. You guys have been making a lot of, I don't want to say waves, but a lot of awareness coming around Dealer Alchemist. I was just downstairs listening to, I guess, some opening remarks, and they were talking a lot about how, they're starting to see the industry move into kind of, not a backslide, but returning to pre-pandemic conditions. And the call was that we need to start paying attention to expenses. And something you had just mentioned to me pre-show, I want to dig into a little bit. How maybe tell me a little bit about Dealer Alchemist, what it is that you guys do, and then what are your thoughts on how can we help dealers pay attention to allocating their money appropriately?
Well, there has been a tremendous amount of waste, even pre-pandemic. And I mean, this is a loaded question and my brain's going a million miles a minute because there's so many things. But I think right now there's a shift in inventory awareness and what's happening in the marketplace. There's more awareness around what's happening with used cars and the adjustment of pricing as the market does adjust. And so, it is time to get really proficient, I think, in our spend. Our technology is very focused on inventory and product because that is how buyers are buying their products today. You go on Amazon, you look for your product, you click buy, it's delivered to your home.
Right.
And so I think there to be more awareness around that this is how the consumers are purchasing, they're looking for the product. So to spend a bunch of money on your dealer name or, local branded regional terms, that is a big consumption of spend that I see regularly. And dealers are also spending money on SEO. And there's a strategy that you can implement that prevents you from spending and wasting money on your free organic traffic so that you can focus the money on pushing your product in front of a much higher propensity to buy audience. And so that's where our technology is super focused.
How do you navigate the balance of higher quality historically has meant lower volume of leads or whatever, and then what I notice is there's kind of this back and forth where it's like, oh, but we're not getting enough leads now, so we need to ramp up the volume. Is that contributing to this waste, or is there a way to kind of balance and reconcile higher quality is what you're after anyways?
Yeah, I mean, definitely quality of leads, and there's always the old adage and the antiquated, I need more leads. What you need is better quality leads, right?
Right. And
so when you're spending your money on paid search and paid social, you want to make sure if you're focused on your product and depending on your market size, and there's a lot of, things that you can put inside of an algorithm, depending on your market size, but you want to make sure that you're getting your unfair share of eyes on your product for the products that you do have, and that you're focused on the conversion of those buyers. I mean, if you're spending money on Honda Accord, I mean, a buyer knows the color, they know the trim level.
Right.
So that would be a consideration, and that's where you want to focus your the foundation of your digital advertising strategy, your technical SEO, to show up in those searches. But for a buyer, we know who's in the market. We know who's searching on third-party sites, and we qualify the conversion process, and we focus the spend on the mid and low funnel conversion spots.
It blows me away, right? Like 2023 at time of recording this. So if you're listening well into the future and my beard's all gray, I still don't have any hair. But the state of things in 2023 is there's people that are like, wait, I was just talking about Universal Studios, and now my phone's showing me all these ads for Universal Studios. I don't get how. And we forget that every click, every interaction that we have is like the internet's a perfect listener.
Yes.
It's I hate to break it to you, it's a better listener than your partner. And it pays attention.
Yes. It really knows you.
Right. So to your point about when you make a statement like, we know what customers are doing online, like we really do at this stage of the game. We know what they're doing.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging that now to say, okay, well, first, how are you auditing, here's all your wasted spend, and here's how we can make it more effective? What are some of the common, I guess, mistakes you see and common strategies that you would recommend implementing?
Well, one thing I definitely advocate for is being really transparent. So I'm doing audits every week, and what I would say is a shift that is really needed in our industry is that most programs that were developed, let's just focus on, for example, OEM approved programs, right?
Right.
They were really built for new car strategies.
Right.
And then the whole industry shifted in a major way, right? And so when that has happened, what I'm seeing, because of that happening, what I'm seeing is that the pivot for those programs is to spend half or more of the dealer's budget on dealership name, regional, Nissan test drive near me, Nissan dealer near me.
Right.
And what you'll see is when the focus is on that budget, you'll see an increase in like people just trying to get to the website to make a service appointment. So you'll see a shift in service activity. And so I see a lot of wasted spend there. Why are you buying your name and you're not spending any money on your product?
Because my competitors buy my name.
But they're not.
Right.
Most audits I'm doing of dealers buying their name, nobody is buying their name. So it's just, I also think there's a considerable amount of waste focused on performance max ads right now. And dealers don't really know what's happening inside of those strategies. I'm seeing the providers really hide what's happening inside of the construct of those strategies. And so I think VLAs are a really good focus. But let's use this analogy. If I want to buy an electric toothbrush, I'm not going to go to every grocery store website, pharmacy website, every Walgreens in town trying to find. I'm just going to search for that electric toothbrush. I wanted that product to pop up. And it's an instant gratification technology environment that we're living in.
Yeah.
And so that's what we focus on too. Yeah. So would you rather spend your money on somebody that's thinking about buying a car, in the next 6 months, and they're not sure if they want a Camry or an Accord, or do you want to show your product in front of somebody that is dialed in on the trim level, dialed in on a color, dialed in on a year?
This is okay. So first of all, I've never thought about it in the concept of a toothbrush, and this is brilliant because you're right. Like, in order to find a toothbrush, I'm not going to Google typing in CVS and then Walmart and then Amazon. I'm just typing in the toothbrush that I want, like Colgate, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for vehicles. I'm not typing in Chevy dealer. I'm typing in Chevy Silverado.
I love when I see paid search for pre-owned truck. Like, burn it up, baby. Do what you got to do. But, we really want to focus on. How many
consumers do you think actually use the term pre-owned?
Hardly any,
It's kind of the same thing as technician.
Yeah.
How many just common general public are calling you a technician versus a mechanic?
Right, yeah.
I always think about that. So the good validation there,
And it's really, I think, when I consult with dealers, I really want to understand what their motive is. Like, what do they want? And it always comes back to selling more cars, right?
Right.
And so, but through that process, you know, OTT is a big topic right now. Everybody's selling it. Everybody's doing it. Everybody has a different flavor. It's like Baskin Robbins, but, you know, well, I don't watch commercials. Okay, but you don't, you know, but what do you think your, you know, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram consumers, how are they living their life, you know, and taking them through that journey to get them to kind of step back and be like a consumer. So we talk about that a lot too with dealers.
On the topic of OTT, I'm curious, you know, and maybe I'm completely out in left field here, and I'm open to that because it wouldn't be the first time. I tend to think of a marketing mix as like a tapestry. It's not about the tapestry. It's about that the tapestry has all these individual threads that make up the tapestry, right? So you've got OTT, you have Google vehicle ads, you've got Facebook, you've got, you know, all the... But to that end, I'm curious where you see, in the overall marketing mix, where would you see something like OTT, or even like, I'm seeing Hulu, you know, like companies like Hulu, Amazon, right? How does that fit in? What should the conditioning of our mindset be? Because I know in our industry in particular, it's always like, did it get me a lead?
Totally. And how effective is it? And how do we measure attribution? Is this super hot topic? And I'm really excited to see how that evolves. But what I would say is that it really depends. And so for OTT, what our technology does is it's very focused again on product. Like it's not a branded commercial. There's space for that. Especially if you're a new dealership or a new point, you've got a new branding message, you're under new ownership, you know, push that. You feel like you're doing a really effective job on your digital advertising and you have some extra budget to spend. But ours is focused on the product. So, for example, if a consumer comes to a customer comes to a dealer website and they're looking at Ram 1500s, and then later on they're watching TV in their home and they're watching Yellowstone. Love that show.
Yes. Yellowstone. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody. Then they're going to see a commercial that's specific to their search of the Ram 1500s. And so it's very dialed into the targeted audience for that specific product. So I think there's space for that. The other thing that I would add to the tapestry texture, I like that analogy, is that one thing that I hyper focus on with dealers is customization. We have so many cookie cutter programs, so many automated programs, and it's just like, oh, you're a Chevy dealer in Houston? Here's your program. Oh, you're in Timbuktu? Same program. You know, and so we really drill down into the customization for the dealer. What does your market look like? How many new are you selling? How many used are you selling? What are your goals? You know, and we really start to understand what the marketplace is like for their geography, what the consumer looks like in their market area. You're only going to sell so many cars a month in a particular geographic location, right? And then drilling down on that customization. What does the transactional data look like for your customer? You know, where are you pulling from? How are those zip codes converting on Google for this marketplace? And so I think when it comes to OTT, there's not a one for all answer either, you know? But one thing I will say that I'm seeing that is, I think, detrimental is when I see OTT budgets that outweigh search budgets.
Okay. Interesting. Search is still a strong, like, are you suggesting search should be the primary driver? Because that's where people are looking to buy products. And the intent, like right out of the gates, it shouldn't be difficult to understand the intent level of someone proactively going and typing something in versus having it basically interrupt their patterns. Like, not to be all whatever here, but like when I go into an airport bathroom and there's a TV in my face at the urinal, I'm not thinking about what's on that TV.
Does that keep you there longer? I'm just curious.
It does not keep me there longer. It actually makes the whole scenario more awkward, right? Because now you're just a bunch of dudes staring at a wall. But it's interrupting something. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think about that even...
When I've been in Vegas too, and I'm like ready to go home in the airport, and the little TV in the background, and the back of the taxi seat, and I'm just like, God,
leave me alone.
I get out, gas the
and
TV
I think about that though. This is how limited minded I can be sometimes, because that was the only example I could come up with in the moment. But I think it's a pattern interrupter versus, like you're saying about search, I'm interrupting my own pattern with the intention of finding something in particular. Have you played around with the chat GPTs and all the craze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to be a pattern interrupter for Google, you think? Like, do you see that kind of level of AI being a more natural part of people's vehicle searching? I know it's really early to tell, so really this is very
where I'm very interested is how it's going to disrupt the traditional SEO programs that exist right now, the content SEO programs. And we don't talk about SEO enough in transparency, I feel like, in our industry.
Right.
You know, in 2016, 17, landing pages, content,
right.
Google tells
microsites.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All the landing pages, right?
Yeah.
And Google said this is what you need in order to be relevant. Now, all of that shifted. Now you have Google business profile pages, and that's really kind of your like new homepage for your site. But we're still dumping money into content SEO. Really, the off-page factors are really 75% more important than, you know, and this is all like the content SEO portion is really, I think, the extra. Right. You know, it's doing the extra, but fix your technical SEO first. Right. Fix the foundation that actually supports your relevant, you know, Google positioning, and also make sure your Google business profile is dialed in. And
we have 75,000 name, address, phone number listings, and they're all wrong.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know what's crazy is in these audits, I see all the time that the listing with the Facebook is wrong for the dealership.
Why?
And we're paying a $2,000 SEO fee a month, and I'm like, oh, come on.
That was originally at the beginning of the conversation. That's something I was thinking about, because I know I've personally seen where, you know, this dealership is paying $650, $850, $1,050 a month for SEO services.
In that part statement.
Right. Yeah. And they're, you know, when we dig into it for them, we realize that it was just bundled as part of a cookie cutter program that they weren't actually getting a deliverable on.
There's nothing happening.
You're spending 14, 15, 20,000 a year and getting nothing.
Nothing. How's those meta tags looking? Oh, there's nothing in there.
What's a meta tag? Yeah, right. That is so interesting. So you mentioned you do these audits. I'm guessing you're obviously looking at their ad spend. You're looking at their SEO, search rankability, all those sorts of things, technical SEO. And now you're mentioning Facebook, so it's including a social. There's a social audit in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm surprised by there's not as many, but there's still a certain number of dealers that are not spending on social. And again, it comes from, a lot of times it's from the dealer's perspective. Well, I don't spend time on Facebook. So.
Right.
Well, but everybody else is, you know, and when you start to understand the cost per conversion there and how people are spending their time there, and this comes back to the OTT segment too that we talked about, is you do want to be on all the devices in all the places where your customers are spending time to reinforce your unified message, and that is a big baseline of our strategy as well.
Hey, not all of us can spend all the time in the Palm Desert.
Yeah.
So you're not on Facebook.
Right.
But I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you see, we talked about search and the intent behind search. How do you see social playing into that? Because it's, I mean, yeah, okay, you're running ads. We can see more of a direct attribution, but then there's the branding side of it as well, that, you know, what we're posting on our page, and how does that map? What kind of conversations or recommendations rather would you make to a dealer that's like, but I post and I only get 2 engagements? Like, is it even doing anything?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's about more engagement, you know, and I really love what Kyle and Paul are doing, because they're talking about building branding for your store and hiring somebody internally. And I really do think that's an internal dealership employee position, is to have somebody that's inside your store taking pictures of people who just bought cars, having experiences, humanizing, I think, our industry through salespeople and through people that work inside the stores, through women that are working inside dealerships, is what's relatable. When you look at how customers are influenced and how they're buying through who they're influenced, it's because they relate to those individuals. So how can you humanize the people that are your brand? This is your brand culture. This is your dealership culture. And how can you humanize that and make that relatable to your audience? You know, and I think that is an internal position for the store, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of work to create content. And then externally, on the technology side, you definitely should have your inventory supported and running through social as well.
Love it. I'm going to toss it back to you with one more question.
Okay.
How did the name Dealer Alchemist come about?
Yeah.
It's unique, right?
It is unique.
Has dealer, so we understand it, and then
Yeah.
we're alchemist, and we're like, whoa, lab coats. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So how did it all come about?
So one of our partners came up with the name, and it's absolutely brilliant. And it's about taking everything, that is not alchemized, right, in our industry, and especially around digital advertising. I mean, what is the hardest thing about our jobs? I think it's about really connecting with dealers and getting them to a place of trust, because there's been a lot of distrustful things that have happened inside of the snake
for so many
oils
years.
for so long, and a
Right.
lack of transparency and a lack of education and the monopoly off of that lack of education as well. So I think it's our duty as dealer partners to collaborate and to make each other better and to make each other more transparent and to really help dealers and really care about them. And so the alchemy of that, what happens inside of that place, is, that's our brand, Dealer Alchemist.
I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
How can those listening get in touch with you to learn more about Dealer Alchemist?
I'm on LinkedIn, just Lisa Jenner, Gener.
You know why I did it?
You know my mom's watching this, right?
I know, but you know why I did it? Because I fear getting people's names wrong.
Yeah.
And Patrick Abad. Everyone's calling him Patrick Abad, and I uncovered it's actually Patrick Abad.
I'm so glad you told me that. Also, Abad. What a cool name
beginning
to
when you
have.
were like, people say Jenner, Giner. I just had
gotta
to.
play it
I'm
up,
like,
yeah.
everybody listening, everybody watching. Now you know how to pronounce his
I'll
name.
know who watched this episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They'll be like, I'm so sorry. You're just going to be walking around the floor. People, I'm so
Or
sorry.
they're going to start calling me that.
I love
Brilliant.
it. Thanks so much for spending some of your time with
Thank
me
you.
today.
It's always great. Yeah, thank you.